looking to lose your stubborn belly fat, here are 3 ways on how you can do so. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably someone that has tried to lose your belly fat and has actually not found an effective way to do so. Someone that holds more fat around the belly is typically known as an insulin profile. And we tend to refer to that person as an insulin profile because we understand that storing fat specifically around the midsection, let's say we're talking about the love handles down here, has to do with regular insulin spiking over a period of time. Now, insulin is a storage hormone that is being raised, elicited when you take in carbohydrates. So when you take in a lot of sugars and carbohydrates, your body releases insulin. And that's the primary hormone that takes sugars and carbohydrates and stores it. Now, typically it stores it within the muscle cells, it will store some in the liver, and the excess will then be stored in the fat itself. However, when you are taking an excess of sugar through the day, multiple meals over a period of time, you regularly release your insulin, and this causes you to overstore a lot of the sugar and the glucose within the fat cells itself. And this is where you start to accumulate fat. Now, typically, you would accumulate fat in your love handles, and this is what we call an insulin profile. The other profile that we tend to look at when people store more fat around the belly is actually a stress profile. What causes stress? The one hormone that we tend to refer to is cortisol. Now, cortisol can be a friend, but it also can be a foe. So cortisol is a type of adrenaline that is being released in your body. It is a slow releasing adrenaline that is used to wake you up in the morning. So that's a good thing. It is used when you are working out to give you a bit of a drive and oomph while you're pushing through the workout. That can be a good thing. But the overproduction of cortisol over a period of time due to stress has actually shown to store fat around the belly and in fact in front of your belly. So if you're someone that tends to store a lot more fat in the front of your belly, having a little paunch, then you may be a cortisol profile person, someone who is highly stressed and has too much stress in their life. So how do we deal with the insulin and cortisol profile types? What can be done to actually help the body reduce cortisol and the production of insulin, so much so that you can lose belly fat in the process? Now, if you're like most people, you're thinking of reducing your belly fat by doing lots of different exercises, crunches, all your gizmos that you see on television, some sort of ab workout machine that tends to force you into weird positions to lose fat specifically in your belly. Fat magically disappears. Now, is that true? We understand that you cannot spot reduce fat through exercises. However, if you guys refer back to the points that I was talking about earlier, that we understand that an insulin and a cortisol profiled individual tends to store more fat around the belly region, then by targeting insulin and by targeting cortisol to make sure that the release of cortisol and insulin is optimal in your body and not excessive, then you can effectively lose fat around your belly. So let's delve into 3 ways on how you can effectively lose belly fat. So here's point number 1. Asking yourself what, when, and how much. Now, these 3 questions relate to the insulin profile that I was speaking about earlier. Someone who is an insulin profile is someone who tends to spike their insulin through the day over a prolonged period of time. Insulin is a hormone that your body increases or secretes based on the food that you are actually eating. If you're taking in foods in large quantities or you're taking in very sugary foods, then your body will secrete a good amount of insulin to help store these excess sugars. So insulin is a storage hormone and a very useful one. But the prolonged abuse of increasing the amount of insulin secretion in your body over a period of time is not going to do you any good. And in fact, it's probably going to store more fat around your belly. So the 3 questions you should be asking yourself is, what types of foods should you be eating? If you're eating really sugary foods and foods that are highly processed, then this will cause your insulin to spike. As such, looking at foods that have a lower glycemic index, looking at foods that are higher in fiber, foods that are from whole foods itself rather than processed foods are definitely going to be more beneficial in keeping your blood sugar levels at bay rather than spiking it on a regular basis. The next question is when. You want to be eating foods that are higher in sugar around times such as post-workout periods. This is when your body is most insulin sensitive, and this is when you can utilize the sugars well to re-glycogenate and refuel your muscles for recovery. However, if you are not training hard enough, then consistently having sweet foods throughout the day. Some people always have sweet foods for breakfast, especially in the morning, like cereals, skim milk, pancakes, and all that kind of stuff. This is a surefire way to shoot up your blood sugar levels at the start of the day, causing an immense fluctuation in blood sugar levels throughout the entire day. This could also cause a shift in making decisions on the types of foods that you take in, causing you to lean towards more sugary foods throughout the entire day. So when should you have more sugary foods around your workouts if possible? But apart from that, aim for foods that are lower in sugar, more whole foods, foods that are higher in fiber. Now the third question is how often? And this question really should be relating to how often should you be spiking your insulin? Now to be honest with you, if you're eating foods that are high in sugar on a regular basis, you will be spiking your insulin very often. If you're eating larger meals on a regular basis, you will also be spiking your insulin very often. So the goal here is if you want to move away from storing fat around the belly, try not to spike your insulin often. As we said earlier, spiking your insulin is going to be beneficial around workout times, specifically post-workout times. But apart from that, you don't want to be spiking your insulin. So aim for whole foods, aim for foods that will not spike your insulin, keeping your blood sugar more consistent throughout the entire day. That way, you'll be bound to lose fat around your love handles, helping you to move away from the insulin profile type that you don't want to be. So the second way in which you're going to be effectively losing belly fat is by looking at the cortisol profile. Someone who is high in stress all the time will tend to store more belly fat around the navel region, the front of your belly, where you get a little punch. Now, in order to mitigate that, in order to get rid of that, we need to understand what causes stress or what can help to mitigate stress itself. One of the biggest things that you guys can do for yourself in order to lower stress levels is to have effective sleep. Sleep is often a thing that we overlook in our society nowadays, and we're looking often at ways on how we can sleep less and be more productive in work, doing more things. But understand that sleep is a physiological phenomenon that is critical for the overall and optimal recovery of your body itself. This is the time where your body produces a large amount of growth hormone for recovery, to keep you younger. This is a time where your cells are being renewed. This is also a time where your brain cells are being rejuvenated, renewed, and all the unwanted debris is being taken out. So sleep is critical. It helps to rejuvenate your mind and your body. The one thing I would tend to look at is to better the quality of sleep. So what can you do? There are a couple of ways that you can do that. Apart from changing your environment, which really is to put away your phones, as well as your television perhaps, and your computers before you go to bed, because the blue light tends to keep you awake or keep you excited. One thing that you can do is to look at a supplement that could help you calm down and mitigate those cortisol levels. One supplement that I really like is magnesium. The choice of a high-quality bioavailable magnesium is extremely important. Now, if you would choose a magnesium supplement, go for a magnesium supplement that does not have a magnesium oxide or a magnesium citrate. And the reason why I say this is because the oxide and the citrate forms of the magnesium, these are called chelates, do not absorb in the body very, very well. And so you may be buying a supplement that is not overly bioavailable to your body itself. Go for a magnesium source like a magnesium taurate, a magnesium orotate, or a magnesium glycinate. These are forms of magnesiums that would help calm you down, lower your cortisol levels, and be able to put you in a deeper sleep. Now, the second supplement that I like to use is actually a botanical called ashwagandha. Now, this is an Ayurvedic herb that has been used for centuries to actually help to calm the system itself. When choosing an ashwagandha, make sure you choose an ashwagandha that is standardized for withanolites, which is the active ingredient found in the ashwagandha root. Now, it is this active ingredient that is effective in calming the system down. So with a lot of supplements out there on the market itself, a lot of them would utilize the ashwagandha leaf or the stem, which may not be as effective, containing the active ingredient to help you calm your system down. If you choose an effective ashwagandha supplement, you will find yourself breezing into sleep and being able to optimize the production of growth hormone and recovery for your system. Here's point number 3, and here's an interesting point. Point number 3 of losing fat around your belly has to do with food. Now, I'm not talking about choosing the right foods, which I already have. We're talking here about food intolerances. Now, this is more about choosing the wrong foods than actually choosing the right foods. A food intolerance is not an allergy per se. An allergy is something that potentially could kill you. But a food intolerance is something that irritates your gut. It is an irritation of the gut that could be caused by a range of different reasons. Some people are born with a genetic predisposition to certain foods that they don't do well with, right? So they may not have tried those foods in their life, but genetically, their DNA just is not compatible with certain foods. Hence, they developed an irritation to the foods that they take in. But often a food intolerance comes about when you're taking a certain food and you can overeat the certain food over a period of time, and that can actually cause an irritation to your gut. Take, for instance, chicken breast. Chicken breast is a protein that a lot of bodybuilders love and like. It is a protein that is being recommended to people because it's a lean meat that is very, very high in protein. But the problem with that is when you eat chicken breast and you overeat chicken breast, say bodybuilders that eat chicken breast all the time, research has shown that if you eat the same foods over and over and over again, you are also opening your chances to being intolerant to that particular food. And this is obviously a prolonged exposure to a given food. Now, this can happen to a whole range of different foods, not just chicken breast, but proteins in general. So if you overeat a certain foods like eggs, or chicken breast, or a particular type of protein for prolonged periods of time, and often whey protein could be an allergen as well, then you may actually build up an intolerance to these particular foods. An intolerance can manifest in a variety of different ways. You can become bloated after eating the food. You can become irritable. We're talking here about being physically irritable after eating a certain food. An intolerance can cause a storage of inflammation, water on the skin, subcutaneous water under the skin that causes you to look really puffy. And often you're not aware of that. An irritation in certain foods, let's say at dinner, can actually cause bad sleep because the cortisol levels that are being produced in your body is continually high while you're sleeping. So as you can see, an intolerance is a really widespread topic. It is not something that if I asked you, do you have an intolerance, you will be immediately able to tell me, yes, I do. Some people do, some people don't realize it's there. Once you have identified the fact that you have intolerances, aim to cut out those foods from your body or from your diet. Now, foods that you're intolerant to will tend to increase stress levels within your body, which also leads to storage of fat around the belly, but it also tends to increase the storage of what we call false fat, which is like inflammation, water under the skin. So your belly could appear watery and soft and fluidy, giving you the appearance that you're actually fatter than you actually are. So if you want to lean out around your belly, make sure you are aware of the intolerances that you might have to certain foods and make an effort to stay away from those foods because those foods may be the reason why you are actually holding on to fat. So in conclusion, ask yourself the how, the when and the how often in order to work with the insulin profile, losing fat at your love handles. Look at cortisol and stress that leads to the cortisol profile. Sleeping better by using ashwagandha, as well as a bioavailable magnesium, can really help in alleviating cortisol. And the last point is looking at food intolerances. Know the foods that may cause intolerances within your gut and stay away from them, because intolerances can lead to false fat. These ways are surefire ways to get you looking leaner rather than you having to spot reduce by doing exercise. Guys, I just really wanted to say how appreciative I am of you watching our Learn Australian Strength Performance videos. I know it doesn't take much, but to subscribe and to like really does mean a lot to myself and the team here. So on behalf of all of us, thank you very much, and I will see you in our next video.